An intense heat continues day and night in the country, with major cities experiencing the longest streak of tropical nights. The Finance Ministry sees demand at home continuing to show signs of recovery, but rather at a gradual pace, while the economy overall is on an upward path. Negotiations resume in Qatar to seek a ceasefire in Gaza. Gaza's health ministry, meanwhile, says 40,000 people there have been killed since October 7. It's August 16th, 6 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. Seoul experienced yet another abnormally hot nighttime last night, with the city expected to soon break a century-old weather record for the longest period of so-called tropical nights. Our Ji explains more about what's causing this extreme heat.
Despite it already being mid-August, when summer heat normally cools down here in South Korea, the country continues to battle one of its longest heat waves and tropical nights. A tropical night is when temperatures stay at a minimum of 25 degrees Celsius between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. the next day. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, as of Friday, Seoul has endured a total of 26 tropical nights in a row. This ties with the record set in 2018, when South Korea went through one of its worst heat waves. As the minimum temperature in Seoul is expected to remain above 25 degrees Celsius throughout this week and until next week, the record is likely to be broken, setting the longest record in more than 100 years, since records began in 1907. The Korea Meteorological Administration says the two large high pressures located over the Korean peninsula have been the main cause of the tropical nights.
If you look at the recent distribution of atmospheric pressure around South Korea, the North Pacific high pressure is located in the mid to lower layers of the atmosphere, while the Tibetan high pressure is in the upper layers. This results in intense solar radiation during the day and an additional warm and humid air at night, leading to heat waves and tropical nights.
South Korea's southeastern port city of Busan already surpassed its longest ever streak of tropical nights, after experiencing 22 days of such nights on Friday. So far this summer, a total of 22 people have died from heat-related causes, and more than 2,500 people have suffered from heat-related illnesses. The country also recorded around 779,000 livestock deaths, as the extreme heat heavily affected farms, raising chickens and pigs. The intense heat wave also affected fish farming across the country, killing almost 1.2 million fish. Excessive heat can cause illnesses such as heat stroke, heat exhaustion, and heat rashes. So it's important to check for signs such as tiredness, dizziness, headaches, feeling sick, or skin becoming pale. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency advised people to check on the elderly regularly, drink plenty of water, and refrain from outdoor activities during the day, while limiting caffeine and alcohol consumption. And because it's abnormally hot even at night, experts say it's important to drink lots of water after the sun goes down and take cold showers. Ji, Arirang News.
South Korea plans to form follow-up measures to President Yoon's unification doctrine, unveiled yesterday, and some experts say it comes at a time where an elaborate goal is needed to inspire the public. Our presidential office correspondent Woo Soo-young talked to experts.
President Yoon Sung-yeol has set out a clear goal for unification of South and North Korea, to form a unified Republic of Korea through a gradual and peaceful process. That's according to officials and experts in Seoul, following Yoon's Liberation Day speech where he announced his new unification doctrine. Unification Minister Kim Young-oh announced on Friday that the government would form follow-up measures on the doctrine's 7 action plans, which include promoting human rights and humanitarian aid for North Koreans, and a dialogue channel between Seoul and Pyongyang. Given the frosty relations between the two Koreas, especially as the North cut off their contact channels, Kim said the ball is in Pyongyang's court to revive communication and form an inter-Korean working group to discuss any issue of interest. In the meantime, Seoul will work to extend freedom and rights for North Korean citizens. But Kim clarified that the new doctrine does not seek forceful or coercive unification. It aims for a gradual and peaceful process.
The August 18th Unification Doctrine presents the ultimate goal of the unified state, as shown clearly in the speech yesterday, where every individual living in both South and North Korea enjoys freedom, human rights and prosperity as the ultimate goal of unification.
Building on the 1994 unification formula that sets out a three-stage process of reconciliation and cooperation, a political union or confederation before a complete unification. Experts say Yoon's doctrine uniquely sets out an end goal.
President Yoon mentioned Unified Republic of Korea 10 times. I think that was the point of the address. He is saying that the unification will be the extension of Republic of Korea. It's not the creation of the mixed version of North and South Korea. It will be free and liberal democratic country with market economy.
With public interest in unification declining over the past decade, Park says it's the right time to renew the social discourse and inspire hope of a unified future.
When we talk about unification, we talk about restoring the unified Korea before 1945. But the younger generation, especially the younger generation of South Koreans, are not interested in the restoring the past. They are interested in achieving more for the future. So we have to show them what unification could do us for the better future and better society and better our lives for the North and South Korea.
The Unification Ministry plans to develop cutting-edge virtual education for young South Koreans and promote interdisciplinary research to connect various fields such as education, diplomacy, biotechnology, the environment, IT and space with the discourse on unification. The minister said he will launch and chair the Inter-Korean Relations Development Committee in order to formulate follow-up measures to the August 15th doctrine. 오수영, Arirang News.
President Yoon Sung-yeol has officially appointed Yoo Sang-im, a materials engineering professor at Seoul National University, as the new Minister of Science and ICT. On Friday, the top office announced it pushed his appointment through despite the National Assembly's failure to agree on a hearing report. Yoo, who's known to be one of the nation's most knowledgeable experts in superconductors, was nominated last month. Following his nomination hearings, the opposition-led National Assembly could not agree on the nomination and opted not to produce a report on the hearings. However, a ministerial nomination only needs hearings and does not need an approval from the parliament. In other news, demand at home here in Korea continues to show signs of recovery, but rather at a slower pace. Our Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
Seoul's finance ministry has maintained that the country's domestic demand is continuing its recovery momentum for the fourth month in a row. That's according to its latest Economic Green Book, a monthly assessment report released on Friday. However, there was a difference in the wording for this month's report, which described the recovery of domestic demand as gradual rather than simply showing signs of recovery like last month's report. The ministry's positive take on domestic demand was at odds with the outlook from the Korea Development Institute earlier this month, which lowered the country's economic growth forecast by a percentage point to 2.5%, citing weak domestic demand as a reason behind this decision. In June, retail sales, a key gauge of private spending and domestic demand, rose 1% compared to May. But when compared with the same month the year before, it was down by nearly 4%. Facility investment also saw an on-month gain but an on-year decline. The government said the reasons for its optimistic report were the nation's booming exports and an improvement in consumer sentiment. July saw export growth of 13.9% compared to the same month the year before on the back of a recovery in South Korea's tech industry. Outbound shipments of chips increased by 50% on year, while exports of wireless communication devices and computers jumped by 54% and 62% respectively. Exports performed well generally, with 11 out of the country's 15 key export sectors seeing a rise. With the semiconductor boom, South Korea's trade balance in June posted its largest surplus in nearly 7 years, with the goods account marking 15 months of continuous growth. Consumer sentiment in July also showed an improvement, with the Consumer Sentiment Index rising nearly 3 points compared to June.
The CSI reached 103.6 points, which is the highest recorded since April 2020. We are perceiving this as a positive sign for consumer sentiment.
The year-on-year increase for consumer prices recorded in July was in the 2% range at 2.6%, with prices of vegetables affected by heavy rain, as well as high global crude oil prices driving prices up. The Finance Ministry said it would work to stabilize people's livelihoods in the second half of the year and reinforce domestic demand. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., major stock indices edged higher on Thursday after strong consumer and retail data boosted investor confidence. The Dow Jones closed up 1.39% and the S&P 500 rose more than 1.6%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq also surged over 2.3%. The Consumer Price Index released by the Labor Department the day before showed that prices rose 2.9% compared to the previous year in July, the lowest since March 2021. And retail sales released on Thursday unexpectedly rose a solid 1% on month in July, helping ease recession concerns. Negotiations have resumed in an effort to broker a ceasefire in Gaza, despite Hamas being absent from the talks. This comes as a new report reveals that the death toll in the Palestinian enclave has surpassed 40,000 after more than 10 months of ongoing conflict. Kim Bo-kyung has the latest.
Amid growing concerns over the conflict in the Middle East escalating, mediators from the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt met with an Israeli delegation in Doha on Thursday afternoon to open a new round of negotiations to broker a ceasefire in the war in Gaza. Hamas officials are not participating in the talks, but mediators are said to be relaying messages to the armed group's officials based there. Regarding the talks, White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said that while there was a promising start to the new round of talks, there remains a lot of work to do, adding that the remaining obstacles can be overcome. The renewed push for talks comes amid a report from the Palestinian enclave's health ministry on Thursday that Israel's military offensive in the Gaza Strip has killed at least 40,000 Palestinians since October 7th.
This is an extremely large and shocking number. This is a disaster of this scale will threaten the health system at any time.
Meanwhile, amid the ongoing ceasefire negotiations, dozens of Israeli settlers attacked the Palestinian village of Jit in the occupied West Bank, throwing rocks, shooting guns, and setting houses on fire. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, a local villager in his early 20s was killed, and another person was critically injured. The Israeli military said police and army units arrested one Israeli and said it was examining reports about the death of the Palestinian. Regarding the incident, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu issued a statement saying he viewed the attack with utmost severity and added those responsible for any offense would be apprehended and tried. The conflict between Israeli settlers and Palestinian locals has been continuing ever since Israel occupied the West Bank in 1967. Since the Gaza war started on October 7th last year, violence in the West Bank has surged. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea has agreed to Indonesia's request to reduce its financial contribution to the joint KF-21 fighter jet development project. The Defense Acquisition Program Administration announced on Friday that the reduction was approved, lowering Indonesia's contribution to 600 billion Korean won, or approximately $440 million from the original 1.6 trillion won due by 2026. This decision follows concerns over Indonesia's ability to meet its financial commitments on time. The resulting shortfall will be covered jointly by the Korean government and Korea Aerospace Industries. Additionally, the transfer of technology to Jakarta will be limited to the 600 billion won range. Following the WHO declaring mpox a public health emergency, Sweden confirmed its first case of the new strain of the viral infection. It's the first case of this new strain outside Africa. Tongyeong has more.
The first case of a contagious and dangerous variant of mpox, also known as monkeypox, has been confirmed in Sweden, raising alarm across Europe. The incidence of mpox has surged on the African continent following an outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo in September last year. Sweden's Minister of Health and Social Affairs confirmed the case of a more grave type of mpox known as clade 1. The Director General of the country's public health agency stated that the individual was infected while in a region of Africa.
The case is the first case caused by clade 1 that had been diagnosed outside the African continent. The affected person has also been infected during a stay in an area in Africa where there is a large ongoing outbreak of mpox, clade 1.
Mpox, an endemic disease in Central and West Africa, commonly presents with a blistering rash and is often accompanied by acute fever, headaches, and muscle pain. Clade 1, the more grave type of mpox, is known to be more contagious and dangerous than clade 2, which triggered a public health emergency in 2022. The World Health Organization has expressed concern about the potential for more mpox cases in Europe in the near future. The WHO previously declared mpox a global health emergency, a status that lasted until May 2023.
It's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives. A public health emergency of international concern is the highest level of alarm under international health law.
The organization has approved the emergency use listing process for mpox vaccines and developed a regional response plan, which requires $15 million in funding. Of this, $1.5 million has been released from the WHO Contingency Fund for Emergencies, though this amount falls short of what is needed to effectively combat the disease. Tongyeong, Arirang News.
Taiwan's east coast was hit by an earthquake of magnitude 6.3 on Friday morning with no immediate reports of casualties. Taiwan's weather agency reported that the earthquake struck 34 kilometers off the eastern city of Hualien. It warned of potential 5.5 magnitude tremors in the coming days. In April, the area was hit by the biggest earthquake to affect Taiwan in 25 years. More than 400 years ago, Korea saw an invasion from Japan known as the Imjin War. Key to stopping that invasion was Joseon's victory in a naval battle. Every year, a special event is taking place to honor this battle and the hero behind the victory. Our An Sung-jin headed south to learn more about the history of the battle.
1592. Japan's Hideyoshi regime invaded the Korean peninsula. It took just 20 days for Japan to capture the Joseon capital, Hanyang. But one battle changed the course of the war. That battle was won by Korea's greatest naval leader, Admiral Lee Sun-shin. The narrow waters below me is where Admiral Lee Sun-shin achieved his famous maritime victory using the islands and bays of Korea's southern coastline to his advantage. The Battle of Hansan Island was crucial in bringing back the momentum for Korea. And to honor this, every year, the south coast city of Tongyeong hosts the Hansan Battle Festival.
This festival is not about eating, drinking and merely having fun. It inherits the spirit of Admiral Yi, which was about being loyal to the country, loving his people and being loyal to one's parents. This festival should be known beyond our country.
This year is the 63rd festival. The 6-day festival covers as much of the city as it can, hosting events by the port, in the city and in other areas.
And I really like Korean traditions, and I also wanted to learn more about the history. I knew about Isun-shin in general, but I did not know about this battle, so I also got to learn and to enjoy the tradition, so that's why I came.
The highlight is a historical reenactment of the Battle of Hansan Island.
조선의 수군들이야, 죽기를 각오하면 반드시 살 것이오. 살기를 동하면 패전하여 반드시 죽을 것이다.
Among the ships is the well-known Gobuksun, or turtle ship. A warship used by the Korean Navy, its name derives from its metal covering, which resembles a turtle shell. These ships, alongside Panoksun warships, were used in South Korea's strategic attacks to destroy the Japanese fleets. When the Japanese Navy arrived, Admiral Isun-shin ordered the Korean Navy to spread its ships into a crane wing shape known as hagikjin. Despite Korea having fewer ships, it destroyed many Japanese ships and cut off Japan's supply of food and weapons. The Joseon Naval Headquarters that Admiral Yi commanded was first established on Hansan-do Island and later on moved to Tongyeong.
Tongyeong as a whole used to be the headquarters itself. There was no war as devastating as the Imjin War. We were able to win because Admiral Yi put his life out there. The war was on the sea and we had both the Gobuksun and Panoksun warships.
Saebyongwan Hall, which is the main building and the only building remaining after the annexation by Japan, literally translates to Hall of Washing Weapons, which showed hope that the war would end soon and peace would prosper. The city of Tongyeong is famous for its beautiful coastal surroundings. But what makes it really special is the culture and history, especially the great victory that became a foundation for Korea today. 안성진, Arirang News, Tongyeong.
Last night, tropical nights appeared in Seoul for the 26 days in a row. This is the joint longest on record, same as 2018. However, this year, the heat wave and tropical nights are expected to continue for the time being. So it is very likely to set a new record for the most consecutive days of tropical nights. Please take special care not to get sick in the long, hot spell. Most areas have received rain today and it will continue tomorrow. In the Seoul metropolitan area and Jeollado provinces, rain will fall until dawn tomorrow. In the western parts of the country, showers will pass tomorrow afternoon and overnight. Jeju Island will receive up to 80 millimeters of scattered rain by tomorrow. Tomorrow, Seoul and Jeju will start off at 27 degrees Celsius. Highs will move up to 34 in Seoul, Chuncheon and Daejeon, Gwangju and Daegu, 33 degrees. The heat wave is not expected to ease off until next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.